First time actually in a while that I've been by myself. Usually I would have someone else here to interview at least at the first part of the Spokane Talks locker room venture. But now it's just me. So deal with me for the next 45 minutes or so here, and we'll see what we can talk about. There's a lot of stuff going on today. But first, I do want to talk about, this is the first time I get to do this, and Lucky Bird is the best sponsor, and I'm pumped that I actually get to do this ad read this week for the first time ever. Maybe I'll be able to take this from Andrew moving forward. But first off, this show is sponsored by Lucky Bird, a Spokane-based e-commerce and digital marketing company dedicated to helping local companies scale in the online world of e-commerce and digital marketing. Visit luckybirdbrands.com to have a down-to-earth, no-pressure conversation about your digital marketing and e-commerce strategies today. Honestly, if you're not utilizing Lucky Bird brands for all of your e-commerce needs, you're making a large mistake. We use them here, and they're probably some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. So definitely do that, and you'll help yourselves out more than you'll help them out. So let's go ahead and get it moved on here. Usually I'm able to share this live while Andrew's talking. Unfortunately, with him not being here, I'm having to do a little bit of that myself. So we're just kind of rolling with it for today. It's going to be a good show, a lot of stuff to talk about. Pretty excited to see what's on the docket here. First, we'll look at some of my favorite histories in sports fighting moments, specifically in the NBA. One thing I want to point out first is what happened to all the fighting. You know, starting with hockey, which is the stereotypical sport where you fight your opponent no matter, for any reason. Literally, they look at you the wrong way, let's fight, let's drop the gloves and go at it. Unfortunately, both in the NHL and in the semi-pro leagues like the WHL, where the Spokane Chiefs work under, they've decreased the amount of fights because of concussion issues. And I get it, head injuries are a big deal. Obviously good to cut that down. But let's just ban headshots then. Let's do some more body shots. Let's just take out guys, with nice shot to the ribs, take them down. It's just unfortunate that, in my eyes, the memories of fights, a lot of it goes down to, the early 2000s. In baseball, you had more fights. In the NBA, you had more fights. And so I have this little video here of some of the top fights in NBA history. We'll see how this goes. I'm pretty excited to see some of these. I actually didn't watch the whole video. I just looked up the first video, and let's roll here. Number 10 with Maurice Lewis and Daryl Dawkins.
And Bob Gross gets
just
nice
mislaying. Just takes it. See, that's what we need more of. Take him down.
Everyone seems to be calming
just literally
down,
grab him and throw him to the
Daryl
ground, and then all of a sudden we get a fan involved here. Refs get involved.
Lucas decides to
nice
jump
shot
in
to the back
and
of the head.
punch Dawkins.
And here we go.
So the two end up squaring
it's literally
up,
like a boxing
really
match. Toss these guys in a
Still,
ring and let's see what they can do.
Epic brawl.
Shaq and Charles Barkley now are on NBA on TNT. They're best buds
Chuck
now.
Getting blocked and fouled by Shaq.
A decently hard foul. Barkley's pretty upset.
Oh,
he threw the ball right off of Shaq's face. Barkley's a big guy.
Swings at Barkley,
Shaq's a little bit bigger. Yet Barkley is the one who takes down Shaq.
And if you ever wondered why there's a little tension between
you just don't see this anymore, unfortunately.
This might be the reason.
Derek Fisher getting in there. This is a nice classic Sonics highlight. Ray Allen
Back in 2006,
Kenyon Duel here.
Known only to
over there on the bottom, throws Ray down right into the stands.
And bumped into him.
And now we're getting the fans involved again. If you go to an NBA game and you get involved in a professional fight during an NBA game, how awesome of a story is that for the rest of your entire life? Marcus Camby and Jeff Van Gundy. We'll see a theme here. Jeff Van Gundy's in a couple of these, oddly enough. I don't know why. He's actually pretty fiery. That's probably part of the reason. But Jeff, and here comes Jeff Van Gundy stepping in between two of his players.
He's no longer paying attention to him and charges, trying to throw a cheap shot. Thankfully, Jeff Van Gundy gets in the way and saves.
I honestly miss these days. The NBA has gotten so soft just in the fouls alone. We've talked about that a lot on this show. But now nobody wants to fight. And I get it. We're looking at these guys as role models for this next generation of kids. They don't want to see kids fighting. They don't want to see them getting feisty. But I mean, there's nothing. I mean, look at that. Just a little hip check knocks down Larry Bird, the Larry Bird. I don't know. I really don't see the issue with getting a little fiery here for some of these players, but I'm really salty about it, actually. I really do want to see more fighting, and I don't know if that's a good thing for the sport, but I really don't care. I mean, it's just absolute pandemonium that I wish we were able to see more. Let's go ahead, if we want to jump forward a little bit, to number 2, if we have to Let's see where
ends
it's
up-
at, because number 2 is where it gets
This
really.
is
Yeah, here we
probably
go.
the saddest day in basketball.
So this is the classic Malice in the Palace. Some Ben Wallace, Ron Artest.
This is probably
This
the
is what
saddest day in basketball
everybody
history.
thinks of when they think of
Ben
a
Wallace
fight
pushes Artest
in
and
the
the fight
NBA.
immediately starts. After
Ron
a little
Artest,
while,
classic hothead.
Artest
Oh, some
laid down on the
fans,
scorer's
some
desk
fan said
until the
something.
Pistons
Here he goes
fans
up into the
suddenly feel a
stands.
cup of
Again,
beer
if you are
all
a
over him.
fan at one of
The
these
rest
games,
is
this guy
history.
forever will remember the time that Ron Artest socked him in the mouth. Nowadays, the NBA has really tried to rebrand themselves and get away from some of these fights, because this was pretty darn common throughout history. You know, you look at the Jordan era, you look at how the 76ers beat up on the Bulls consistently with just physicality. You really don't see that all too often, unfortunately.
Then luckily,
we'll see if that
footage was
changes.
tracked down a few years
But I'm really
ago,
excited.
and it was
I
more
hope
amazing.
I hope that the NHL allows fights more. The best part about going to a Spokane Chiefs game is the fights. I love hockey. That's what I guess that was an old take. Now that I actually understand hockey a little bit better, I do enjoy hockey for what it is. But I'm pro-fighting. Let's see more of it. Less head injuries, that's fine. But let's see more fights. All right, moving on to some local stuff happening in Spokane right now. The push to add a new football-specific stadium in downtown Spokane next to the Spokane Arena is now being pushed again after last year when the Spokane voters, in an advisory vote, not even a referendum, which actually does hold some political weight, in a advisory vote last year, Spokane Public decided not to allow, or they didn't want the stadium to be built. So right now, Spokane Arena here at this photo is the yellow spot on the left. The pavilion, which is in the red there, is the brand new sports complex being built right now, and right above that is where they want to build this new football stadium, which is right now a parking lot for the arena to the northeast of the Spokane Civic Theater. If you look at these stats here, it's actually pretty apparent that putting the stadium there is the best for all involved. For me, I personally love the idea of having a downtown sports stadium, and that's coming from a guy who lived on the north side where Joe Albee was only 7 minutes away. But think about the folks who live up on the South Hill. Ferris, you think about the people who have to travel in from the valley to play a Spokane public school team at Albee. That's an hour drive easily. The base stadium budget for the downtown stadium actually ends up being about $9 million cheaper, and the difference there is made up in the land acquisition for the downtown stadium. It will cost $7 million for that. And then adding other upgrades like premium seating, fan experience, seating, canopy options, and other upgrades adds another $1.5 million. The subtotal ends up actually being cheaper to build the downtown stadium. But the big bonus actually comes in the amount of economic impact on the city of Spokane. $2 million will be added from a USL, which is a semi-pro soccer league founded a few years ago, where a lot of potential MLS players actually come from. Other private investment and public financing is not yet to be determined. Yet, again, the economic impact will be, miles and miles ahead of what the actual cost ends up being. The USL has also promised to cover the operating cost and allows for free parking, just like Albee. And if we look at even if the USL doesn't come here, which again they're expected to, the Spokane Public Facilities District, who runs the arena, the Spokane Convention Center, the new podium that's being built, is going to take over all the operating costs. So the Spokane School District Board actually met last night, and they're just so soft. The Spokane Public Schools Board they really screwed up last year when they presented this idea to the voters by not giving them all the information and actually making the Albee option sound even more enticing. So now, after meeting last night, they decided to let the public have more time to think about it, even though they only have another month and a half or so before bids start coming in for the Albee Stadium. I just am shocked that the Spokane School Board and the public don't realize the amount of money that could actually be brought in here, because this can also host national tournaments. Again, the USL, it's going to be a fantastic investment for the city of Spokane, but I don't even know if that's going to happen. Unfortunately, because again, like I said, the Spokane School Board is too soft to do anything, actually. So we'll see what ends up happening there. We'll keep an eye on it over the next month, because I will talk about this again if this decides to either pass or fail. If it fails, you'll definitely hear about it, because it's actually ridiculous that this isn't an obvious yes. And we'll see if the school board has the spine to just say yes, because that's the right answer. All right, we'll actually go to some breaking news here that just came in about an hour ago. Duke men's basketball is canceled for the rest of the season after a positive COVID test. That dropped them out of the ACC tournament, which means they have no chance of actually making it into the NCAA tournament. Fine by me, because they shouldn't have made it. And they were on the bubble, and if Duke would have made the tournament, I would have been furious. That would have been an absolute joke. Duke has had a terrible season earlier on in the year, and I love Coach K. Coach Krzyzewski does an incredible job over there at Duke. He's going to be considered, if not one of the best coaches of all time. But they just had a bad season. I mean, a season that any other conference, any other team would have had no chance of making the NCAA tournament. But because it's Duke, they had the opportunity to maybe make it in. And so this ACC tournament was big for them. Unfortunately, now they will not be able to compete. So their season is done. They sent out a tweet earlier today essentially thanking their student athletes, their fans. The only thing I do feel bad for is the athletes who aren't able to actually, compete for that tournament spot, even though it was a very long shot in the long run. We have some questions here coming in the comments. So again, I am running the solo. So if you do have anything to talk about, we're getting a phone line set up at some point. So keep an eye on that. But for now, I'd be more than happy to take any questions here on our Facebook page where this is running live. AJ Christensen, big Bears fan. I've mentioned him on the show before. He's been all in on this whole Chicago Bears trade with the Seattle Seahawks for Russell Wilson. He said it would be his dream come true if Russell Wilson went to the Bears and Colin Kaepernick went to the Seahawks, which is a rumor that was floated around earlier this week. He said, thoughts on Russell Wilson's tweet this morning saying, the old has gone, the new is here. So he said that this is obviously referring to his impending trade to the Bears. If you were the GM, what would be the minimum you would take in a trade for Wilson? It's actually a great question. I've had these conversations off the show about what it would take to pry Russell Wilson away from the Seahawks. I'm going to get to the Dak discussion here in a bit, but if you have a franchise quarterback, you don't let him go. And if you let him go and you don't get something in return that either continues to make you win or sets you up for the very near future to win, you're screwed. And if the Seattle Seahawks trade Russell Wilson and don't get, I don't even know what the number would be in terms of draft picks and players. One thing that I was looking at, some people were mentioning like a Dak for Wilson trade before he signed his contract. It would take Dak and a couple first-round draft picks, in my opinion. For the Bears, it would take half their defense, the good ones on defense at least, and 3 first-round draft picks, maybe even. It would literally have to be the largest trade in NFL history for me to want to even consider trading Russell Wilson. Now, that might change after this year. If the Seattle Seahawks come into 2021 and have a down season, specifically on the offensive end, that might change. And Russell Wilson may find himself in a different uniform come 2022. Now, do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. I think Wilson cares too much about his image and his legacy to jump ship. But if he can make Seattle look like the bad guys, then we might actually have a little bit more of a story on our hands. Because right now, it's more Seattle fans are upset with Wilson. Wilson has always been a business-first, corporate kind of guy, never hurt the team, and this whole offseason has been a very different approach to it. It's this whole idea of players having this mindset of, we're an employee, we're going to we have a union, but the best union is yourself. If you can come forward and cause, you look at what's going on in Texas right now with Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans. I don't know any Texans fans, but if I was a Texan fan looking at the situation, I'd be more upset at the Texans organization than I am at Deshaun Watson right now. They have completely destroyed his career so far. Now, he's put up stats. He's won. But is he really going to be remembered as an all-time great if he continues to have the career trajectory that he's having right now? Probably not. So the key for Russell Wilson right now is to get out of here, out of Seattle, in as good of a way as he possibly can, and I just don't see that happening. I don't see Seattle turning on Pete Carroll. I don't see Seattle turning on John Schneider. I don't see Seattle turning on Jody Allen and the Allen ownership group. So right now, Russell Wilson is not going to go anywhere. I'm very confident in that. But if I needed to get something in return, it'd have to be massive. So another question here, kind of Seahawks related, NFL related. There are numerous times, this is from Eric Bjerkestrand, actually the former creator, actually he is just the creator, he's not the former, he is the creator of the locker room. He said there are numerous high-end offensive linemen on the market right now. Trent Brown, Eric Fisher, Thuney, Corey Linsley. Seahawks have $17 million in cap room now. Think they'll go after one of these Pro Bowl type guys to build on the O-line. If so, who? Got to keep Russ happy with an O-line improvement. Definitely agree. They do need to keep him happy, and the best way to do that is to sign a better offensive line. In my opinion, what Seattle is going to do with that $17 million in cap space, they're going to have to sign another wide receiver, first off, because David Moore isn't coming back. And then you're right, they're going to have to go after, a lot of people talked about Corey Linsley from the Packers going to Seattle. You know, he ran that offensive line being the center there, an all-pro kind of guy who would instantly upgrade arguably the Seahawks' worst position last year, which is center. So I'd have to guess they'd go after at least him. Trent Brown is a tackle. Eric Fisher was just released by the Chiefs, I think today, maybe yesterday. I'd have to check on that. But he'd also be another good guy to fit on that offensive line. It's just, again, the big thing is going to come down to money. The cap actually went down 8% from last year, or $8 million, I should say, from last year, which is the first time in my history that the NFL cap has actually gone down. They've been increasing exponentially forever. So we'll see. But, yeah, it'll be very important for Seattle to appease Russell Wilson, because if they want him to stay and not cause a problem, which it's obvious now that he's ready to cause a problem, you're going to have to support him with an offensive line and weapons. He wanted Antonio Brown last year, and Seattle said nope. Over the years, Wilson has talked about wanting players. He wanted Josh Gordon. They did that for him. That didn't really pan out, mainly because Josh Gordon couldn't stop smoking weed. But he is playing in a new league, so good on him. I do hope Josh Gordon gets another chance in the NFL. All right, sticking with some more football-related news here. Kansas athletic director yesterday ended up stepping down after the Les Miles incident that was revealed over the last week or so from his time at LSU. The 67-year-old Miles was 3-18 in 2 seasons at Kansas, including an 0-9 record last year. His only Big 12 win was over Texas Tech in 2019, and they haven't won more than 3 games in a season since 2009, and he was kind of seen as the savior for this team. It's really interesting, actually, because he and Jeff Long, who's the athletic director, have known each other since the 80s and the 90s at the University of Michigan. So you'd have to think, and that's probably why he stepped down. He probably knew something. He's trying to get out of, not having to deal with some of these questions that were raised from Miles' time at LSU. That report, if you didn't hear, was actually done by LSU, showed that a 2013 internal investigation at the school accused Miles of inappropriate behavior toward female students, including allegations he contacted some of them via Facebook and text and met some of them alone and kissed at least one of them. The report did not find that he had sexual relationships with any of the women, and Miles strongly denied kissing the students, saying he didn't do anything wrong and that he was only mentoring the young women at LSU. Unfortunately, it's a pretty damning report. He comes out saying that he didn't think it was inappropriate. We're seeing a lot of that right now with Andrew Cuomo in New York, saying it wasn't inappropriate. I didn't see it as it being inappropriate. And it's like, well, it doesn't really matter what you perceived it as being. I mean, if it's coming off a certain way, you obviously did something wrong. I don't know what these powerful men are thinking. Both of them were highly respected. Cuomo was seen as a savior during the COVID-19 pandemic in a lot of ways, and Les Miles brought just incredible excellence to LSU during his time there, and both now have completely ruined their lives because they just were not good people. I mean, they're literally just bad people. You don't do things like that. So I'm glad to see that the AD stepped down. Les Miles, this was an internal investigation by LSU, so these weren't even just allegations so much as LSU came to the conclusion that these things actually happened. And it's actually pretty unfortunate that LSU didn't do something about it. It took this to come out for Les Miles to actually say that, yeah, I did do some of these things. I didn't kiss her, but I did message them. And it's like, well, you can't do that. So now on to, I talked about some of the Dak stuff that happened. Dak Prescott signed a new contract yesterday. 4 years, $160 million. Thank God, because I've been tired about talking about Dak Prescott for actually now it's about 16 months. Went back to the almost beginning of a season of, not last season, but the season prior. He signed a, like I said, 4 year, $160 million deal. He has a maximum value of $164 million, including $126 million in guaranteed money. That means no matter what happens, unless he breaks the law, he's going to make $126 million from this deal. So he's going to be a Dallas Cowboy for the next 4 years. He has a full no-trade clause and a no-tag provision. So if he doesn't want to go, he's not going. His deal averages $42 million a year over the first 3 seasons, with $75 million in the first season and a $66 million signing bonus. That $66 million is the highest in the league history, topping Russell Wilson's $65 million when he signed his contract a couple seasons ago. He bet on himself last season. He played on the franchise tag, had a very strong statistical start to the 2020 season until he had a brutal, absolutely terrible dislocated ankle injury that was a very obvious bad injury. So that's, good on him. He'd be able to pull in this contract after such a debilitating injury like that. Cowboys must have been comfortable with his rehab and comfortable with what he's going to look like when he is done with that rehab. He'll be ready when the season starts. He'll be entering his 6th season. He has thrown for almost 18,000 yards, 106 touchdowns with only 40 interceptions. He takes care of the football. He makes strong decisions. He's not, if you watch these highlights here, he's a very good quarterback. He can make impressive throws. He just hasn't proven that he can win big ball games. The Dallas Cowboys have, since 2000, they have won less playoff games than almost 20 NFL franchises have, which means they haven't really won any playoff games in a long time. They have won a handful, but, it's pretty unfortunate as a Dallas Cowboys fan. They're America's team, and yet they don't have all the success that they used to have. But Dallas couldn't afford to let him walk. Again, I mentioned this with Russell Wilson. If you have a franchise quarterback and you let him walk, you're making a huge mistake. Now, Seattle's in a different position in the fact that, they have him under contract currently. The Cowboys would have had to tag Dak. Dak would have had to sign that tag, and then he would have been traded. And I don't think he wanted to go anywhere. So after his contract, Ezekiel Elliott and Amari Cooper take up $70 million in cap space on the Dallas Cowboys. That's the largest in the league among those 3 position players. We'll see what happens, but that essentially means that Zeke and Amari Cooper are not going to be there for the long haul. It's just the nature of the game. When NFL quarterbacks sign massive contracts, players have to leave. That's what makes Tom Brady so great. There's been a lot of memes over the last week talking about Tom Brady and what he does with his contract situations, and it's a very good point. All these NFL quarterbacks go and sign these largest deals in NFL history, and what happens to these teams? They don't win. Seattle won. They had a good season. Did they do anything special? No. They won a playoff game, and then they lost, and that's their season. That's actually been Seattle's season for the last almost 7 years, and a lot of that, unfortunately, does fall on Wilson's shoulders. All right. Now it's my ad read. Now it is actually my favorite company to talk about, and that's Lake City Hauling. Are you working on a remodeling or a cleanup project? Let Lake City Hauling help. Save yourself a stressful trip to the dump by letting them haul all of the small and big items for you. They will remove it all. They'll take your unwanted trash, branches, yard waste, furniture, appliances, and more. They offer same-day pickup, and check out their 5-star review on Google and see why customers continue to go back to Lake City Hauling. They offer junk removal, dumpster rentals, and demolition in the Kootenai County area. If you do live outside that area, do not fret. Give them a call, and they are sure to be able to help you out. Keep them in mind for your next demolition or cleanup project. Again, their number is 208. I actually haven't given them your number yet, so this is the first time. 208-425-4130, and check out their website at lakecityhauling.com. That's their awesome dump trailer right there. Those things are highly underrated. If you don't have a dump trailer and you're actively trying to get a big project done, best of luck. Definitely invest in a dump trailer. I highly suggest it. So let's move on here to the Zags. I have a couple questions in the chat I will get to, I promise, by the end. I have a quick little video to show you first. Zags women and men's basketball teams played on Tuesday in the championship against BYU. Zags went 2-0. The women had a crazy ending to their game, and the men struggled for most of the game to actually get in front of BYU. Both ended up being victorious. The women had a little bit more excitement to theirs. So here is their kind of little highlight video they dropped yesterday after their win on Tuesday. Awesome for them. Lisa 48, head coach, and the rest of that basketball team. Great program. They've done great things here recently, and I'm excited to see what they're able to do in the NCAA tournament. They got kind of screwed last year when they weren't able to host the first and second round of the NCAA tournament at the McCarthy Athletic Center, so I think there's probably a little bit of motivation to do well this year. So we'll see what happens there. Great win on their hand. The men struggled all game against BYU, probably their most difficult game of the season, which is interesting because they've had some really good games, especially at the end of the season, against Kansas, West Virginia, Iowa. But BYU actually has been moving up in the rankings recently. In the most recent AP poll, they were 26th. They didn't quite make the top 25. Their efficiency ratings on Ken Palm are actually sitting right around 20. They were at 20 before the the Zags game, so I'm guessing they are going to continue to be there because they had an amazingly efficient game. They made like 75% of their shots almost in the first half, and that's a good way to beat any team, is if you can shoot the ball lights out like that. But the Zags ended up coming out of there with a win. Jalen Suggs had probably his best game as a Zag with 3 clutch threes down the stretch, leading the Zags to a 26-0 record and positioning themselves for the first undefeated season after the NCAA tournament in about 50 or 60 years now. They got to go 6-0 to win it. Can they do it? Hopefully. That would be the plan. But it's March, and it's mad, and we'll see what ends up happening. Selection Sunday is on Sunday. The men have no questions about where their seeding will be. They will be the #1 overall seed in the West region. The women will wait to see where they're at on Sunday, and then the men's tournament actually kicks off for GU on Friday, I want to say. So we'll see what happens with that. Yesterday, the NCAA came out and said that teams will only need 5 healthy players to be able to play their game, which is obviously a unique situation this year if players get sick. Someone asked, what about if the head coach is sick? And the NCAA said, honestly, it's probably something we should talk about. It's not surprising the NCAA is not quite prepared. You know, as a reporter for the Spokesman and waiting to see what the media can do for the NCAA tournament, they haven't even given us any information. So they're way behind. I get it. It's a very interesting time, but it would be nice if they would be more on top of it. I'm going to kind of jump through something real quick. The Mariners yesterday announced also that they're going to split their business and baseball operations. This is great news as a Mariners fan. Already Seattle has 2 franchises that have this model right now. The Seahawks have their football ops side, which consists of John Schneider and his scouts and Pete Carroll, who makes all the personnel decisions. And then the Allen ownership group, which is headed by Jody Allen, is completely separate, has no input on the team. The Sounders are also in a very similar spot. They have Adrian Hanauer, who's the majority owner, with Garth Lagerwey, the GM, who makes all the personnel decisions, and Hanauer watches most of the business decisions. This is great because it keeps the president and CEOs out of baseball decisions. And this happened after former team president and CEO Kevin Mather came out with some pretty terrible things in his speech here at the beginning of February. He gave a brutally honest soliloquy, and that essentially got him fired. He stepped down. So Mariners chairman John Stanton told reporters yesterday that they will separate that, and that, again, like I said, is great news. Stanton said that the team is in no rush to hire a president. He will continue to serve as acting president for the moment. All right. We're going to watch real quick. And Amanda Nunez is a monster. She would kill anybody in this building in 5 seconds. We're going to watch her submit her opponent, Megan Anderson, who had the length on her, also looked very fierce, but she put her in an arm bar here and, almost snapped her arm completely in half. And I was here for it. It was a lot of fun. I mean, literally just, oh, God. Arms aren't supposed to go that way. Amanda Nunez, absolute monster in a great way. That was actually one of the more interesting fights of the night. I mean, she literally just took it to Megan Anderson. I'm definitely going to continue to watch her fights because she just puts it all out there. She just had a baby, so that's cool. I think this was her first fight since having a baby, so not her herself. Obviously, she is in pristine fighting condition. But all right, let's move on here to the Jabronis. We'll finish off the show here. We have Library Out Loud coming up next on Spokane Talks. So if you're interested in the Spokane County Library, is that the county? Yeah, Spokane County. That's interesting. Spokane City Libraries and the Spokane County Libraries are separate. But if you are interested in the Spokane County Libraries, they'll be up here next around 11. My jabroni this week is Johnny Damon. Johnny Damon for a time, was the greatest center fielder in baseball for about a 3-year stretch when he was with the Red Sox. He, over the weekend, had a pretty rough time. Actually, was it over the weekend? I think it was over the weekend. Over the weekend, here's his mugshot. He got a DUI. Not smart. Don't drink and drive. Don't be stupid. Here he is with the Yankees, too, which was a big deal when he went from the Red Sox to the Yankees. He had to get clean cut, clean shaven, the Yankee way. He's been out of the MLB since 2012. He actually played for the Thai national team in the World Baseball Classic in 2013. But he got his DUI. So here's the video real quick. It's only we'll play the first few seconds here. I'll kind of talk you through it. It's actually really interesting. Really stupid. It's the stereotypical drunk, here I am drunk and this cop's trying to arrest me, and everything's fine though. I'm not drunk. We're all good, man.
What you had to drink tonight?
A little bit.
Just a little bit?
Yeah.
All right.
Just had a little bit to drink.
Yeah. A couple reasons I'm stopping you. One, while I've been behind you, you've left your lane multiple times. Just stay there. Okay, while I've been behind you, you've left your lane multiple times, and you actually struck the curb at one point on
Never
Main
hit
Street.
the curb. Never.
And then the stop sign back there, you stopped all the way past the stop bar, the white line on the ground, you have to stop behind it.
And don't
hey, shut your door.
Stop signs. Cops
stay in the car. Stay in the car.
And here's his wife.
Stay there. Hey,
she wants to try and make things better by getting out of her
Sir,
car after the
stay
cop
back
says,
over there.
"Please stay in your vehicle."
Listen to me.
That always
Step
goes
over there.
really well.
Okay,
stay in the
Damon
car.
tries to get her to walk home, saying that we are home, but says, "Hey, go ahead and walk home."
Stay in the. Get back in the car.
Cop's getting obviously pretty upset here.
Stay
Rightfully so.
there.
Don't be
Hey,
stupid.
I'm telling
Honestly.
her to go in the car.
Stand
Don't
over here.
be stupid.
We are.
So Johnny Damon goes on to essentially say he's getting handcuffed, and he says Blue Lives Matter. And that's great. I'm glad he has that position as far as, liking cops. But when you say that phrase and you expect that to, change what's about to happen to you, he's literally being handcuffed on the back of his SUV. You're an idiot, and you earn jabroni status. I don't understand. With Lyft and Uber these days, and even taxis, Spokane has taxis. You can call a yellow cab. You can call the checker cab in Spokane still. You literally have all of these options not to drive drunk. And this is in Orlando, by the way, so they have everything. There is all sorts of options for you to get home. And yet he chose to drive, and this is what happens. And now you get this awesome mugshot of an idiot like Johnny Damon or a jabroni like Johnny Damon sitting in jail. If that's not the true definition of a jabroni, I don't know what is. And here, we'll end on a lighter note. My favorite thing that I found yesterday, I was scrolling through Twitter, and I'd consider myself a decent sports fan. I know a decent amount, and I'm going to get here to the questions, I promise, right before we end. I came across a Coastal League, I think it's Coastal League. Anyway, Coastal League baseball team. They were called the Savannah Bananas. That's a baseball team, the Savannah Bananas. So I took it upon myself. Current colleague of the Spokesman Review, Ryan Collingwood, pointed out that his favorite minor league baseball team is the Montgomery Biscuits. And they're the Tampa Bay Rays affiliate. So I looked up a list of the top names in minor league baseball, and this is what I found. The Norwich Sea Unicorns, Tigers affiliate. What's a sea unicorn? I don't know. I'm going to guess it's like a unicorn that swims in the sea. But I'd like to see what their logo looks like. There's the Amarillo Sod Poodles, which I guess I looked up as some old-style fashion dog. I don't know. That's the Padres affiliate. There's the Akron Rubber Ducks. One of probably my favorites, the Rocket City Trash Pandas. So essentially the Rocket City Raccoons. They're the Angels affiliate. The Inland Empire 66ers, which is in San Bernardino where Route 66 goes through. There's the Omaha Storm Chasers, which makes sense considering they have all the tornadoes. Also, yesterday, Washington was voted as the top place to live. That's because we don't really have many natural disasters. We have fires. That sucks. But we also don't have tornadoes and hurricanes that could lift our house off the ground. So that's a bonus. But we actually are pretty cool up here in Washington. Idaho is 5th. Good on them. We have the Richmond Flying Squirrels, the Binghamton Rumble Ponies. It's the Mets affiliate. I don't know what a Rumble Pony is, but I'm here for it. The El Paso Chihuahuas, the Lansing Lugnuts, and just to shout out the Mariners, one of their affiliates, their single A affiliate, the Modesto Nuts. Just, kind of after a DUI video, you just need a little bit of a nicety in your life. So here with the last couple minutes, I do want to go over some of these questions here. Scotty Slosher asking, with Chris Carson becoming a free agent, what did the Seahawks do with their running back situation? It's a good question. Chris Carson was never going to get a contract with the Seahawks. It's not in their DNA to give running backs second contracts. It's not really in their DNA to give many people second contracts unless they blow their socks off and they're a blue chip talent. But Seattle, in order to appease Russell Wilson, cannot afford to go out and get a top-end running back. My guess is they're going to maybe sign, they could go after like a James White maybe, like a receiving back, someone who could really make some noise in the receiving game. But my guess is they're going to stick with what they have in-house. And that includes they did re-sign Alex Collins. They do have Rashad Penny, who should be fully healthy after a gruesome leg injury in 2019. And they have the potential to go after Carlos Hyde again, which would not surprise me at all. So we'll see if that ends up happening. The other question here, again from Eric, who wins the NFC East? I would have to say, with Washington not having a quarterback and the Giants having to rely on Daniel Jones, and now with Dak being healthy and having a strong, in theory, a strong team, I just don't see anybody. And then the Eagles are a hot mess with Jalen Hurts. They have a lot of faith in him, but I don't see Jalen Hurts winning a division with the Eagles, especially in their current state with a brand new head coach who had, as we mentioned here a couple weeks ago, one of the worst press conferences, first-time press conferences a head coach has ever had. And last question here from Joel Oakland, Gonzaga Prep graduate, Eastern Washington graduate, also another buddy. So what two teams are making it to the NBA Finals and who wins it? Some NBA talk here at the end. Never thought I'd hit the NBA today with Andrew not being here, but here we are. Right now, the two teams that I can almost guarantee, and I put a decent amount of money on this pick. The two teams that will make it to the NBA Finals will be the Lakers and the Nets. And the reason for that, Lakers have consistently shown with LeBron and Anthony Davis when he's healthy are one of the best teams in the league. They won it last year. Why can't they do it again? But the Nets have put together probably the most impressive squad in recent, probably and maybe even in NBA history, with three MVP candidates and former MVPs actually, not Kyrie, but they have Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden running the show over there, and they just signed Blake Griffin a couple days ago, and they just also got Andre Drummond, one of the best rebounders in the league, and their biggest weakness actually was down low, and they signed two big guys. The Nets will make it, and if I had to pick a winner at this exact moment, I actually had this debate yesterday. If I had to pick a winner right now, I just see the Nets doing it. I don't see, Anthony Davis with his injury question right now. The big question mark here on his Achilles. I just don't know, how consistent he can be. And the Nets have shown that they can score 130 points at ease. And that's without Kevin Durant for most of the last month. So, yeah, if I had to pick it right now, Lakers, Nets in the NBA Finals with the Nets winning it. We'll see if that happens. All right, right on the dot, 11 o'clock. Like I said, Library Out Loud is going to push me off of here, so I got to let them hop on. But this was fun. This was a fun little solo show. Like I said, Tenney will be back next week. But I did take care of you guys this week, and I'll be able to again if I need to step in. So, again, thanks for watching us here on The Locker Room. We'll see you again next week. I am your host, Justin Reed. This was presented by Spokane Talks. Thanks always to them. And have a good weekend. It's supposed to be beautiful this weekend. I have no plans, so we'll see if that changes. But I will see you next week here on The Locker Room.
Thanks for watching The Locker Room on Spokane Talks. Check us out on Facebook as well as our other platforms. We want to hear from you. Join the conversation by emailing us at info@SpokaneTalksOnline.com. And for more sports news, opinions, and content,